Welcome back, Dynasty lovers, to another episode of the Dynasty Interview Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Adrian, my co-host,
Scott Martin.
So hopefully you already listened to our QB1 show, or the first QB show for the 2023 rookie quarterbacks then. And this is the second show of the series then. And we're looking at a bunch of great guys. So on this list, we have Aidan O'Connell out of Purdue, Anthony Richardson out of Florida, CJ Stroud out of Ohio State University, Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA, Clayton out of Houston, and the one, the only Bryce Young out of Alabama. So pretty good list here for you today. So we'll try to break down this film for you, give our takes on these guys, and then let you decide ultimately how you want to draft them. Okay, so first up we have Aidan O'Connell out of Purdue, our Boilermaker friend here. So 6'3", 213 pounds, 9 3/4 inch hands then. Did not participate in the timed or the agility drills or the jumping drills then. But as far as his stats then, had very good stats these past 2 years then. This 2022 had a 64% completion percentage then, threw for 3,490 yards, had 22 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. Not much of a threat on the ground, had negative 81 rushing yards then. Scotty, I'll let you start off with Aidan O'Connell. Tell me your thoughts on him.
Yeah, so I thought he's an okay prospect. He's sort of in that sort of muddy tier of that like mid to the bottom of the pack. I thought he has a sound base. His footwork can get a little bit sloppy at times, and he has this little ball slap, which makes his release a little bit prolonged. But his mechanics are okay. He takes a few sacks, but he can extend some plays, and he does get sped up when he senses pressure, but he does okay in the pocket, just a little above average. His arm strength is just a little above average. I thought, it looked like he had some nice zip on the ball on some of these little short intermediate routes, but the farthest ball I could see him throwing is about 50 yards, so he doesn't have super big arm strength at all. And his arm accuracy is just okay. That 64% completion percentage, which was a pretty big drop from 2021, he makes his living in that short intermediate area, and he operates pretty well there. So I think he's a good game manager. And above average anticipation, above average ball placement. He routinely throws people open. I thought other than Bryce Young, he had some of the best ball placement in the class. I thought he routinely put the ball exactly where it needed to be for that, yards after catch. He absolutely offers no rushing ability. He's right there with the Tanner McKee. He has absolutely no change of direction. There was one time that he went to cut, and it was like, oh my gosh, he tear his ACL? Because he just stopped and just fell. So he's not going to offer you much there, from that standpoint. But he's a good game manager. He's ran a pro style offense, and he basically carried his team. So he's an okay prospect. I think somebody's going to take a shot on him. 6th, 7th round, and depending on the landing spot, maybe be late round super flex flyer. Never know. Spot start.
Yeah, he's second to last of the guys we scouted, maybe third to last. Then you could flip flop a guy. Then I think he has the size. I think he's going to get drafted. I think he is, but will forever be a number 2, number 3 quarterback on an NFL team. If he's your starter, it's not going to be a successful team then. I think he has a quick release, good mechanics. He does step up in the pocket, but definitely not maneuverable. Decent accuracy then, so decent placement, but his arm is probably on the lower end for this class then. He has scans the whole field, has good vision then. But he makes too many turnovers, so I think he tries to force it at times then. So that's definitely a knock. He is definitely not a rusher. So there was actually one draft site I was looking at maybe it was NFL Draft Buzz. They're like saying this. He's like athletic and offers rushing ability. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they're not watching the same
film. So it definitely is not a rusher then. He's like a feeder like in quicksand, not quicksand, feeder in sand, run on the beach then. And we're not talking Baywatch either. He probably has some good leadership potential then, was a 2-year starter then, played in some big games then. I think they got to I think they were in the Big Ten championship game from the West, but that's not really saying too much. The West is pretty bad compared to the East. But like I said, I think he's going to last a long time in the NFL just from the solid floor he has then. But he's not going to offer your dynasty teams much value. And like I said, I think it's going to probably be a waste draft pick or a guy you're going to have a practice squad, and then you're going to ultimately cut then. I don't know if you saw the combine, but I had to put this out here. So have you ever seen Super Troopers?
I know what it is.
You know what it is. You haven't. One of my favorite comedies of all time. Then, but he has in the combine he had this awful stash then, but he looked like Farva from Super Troopers then. So, and he probably moves very similar to Farva as far as his speed then too. But I saw if you just get a sort of a state patrol, a Vermont State Patrol hat on there, and he could fit right in them. But Farva from Super Troopers. It's as far as NFL potential, like I said, he's gonna. I think he'll last a while in the NFL, but he's not gonna be a benefit to your fantasy teams then. But you know what guy is going to be a very big benefit to your fantasy teams then, if he ever taps into his full potential? That's our next guy on the list then. So Anthony Richardson out of Florida then. So he came in at 6'4", 244 pounds, 10.5-inch hands, and he ran a 4.43 40, had a 40.5-inch vertical, and a 10-foot 9-inch broad jump then.
So that's 99th percentile 40, 100th percentile vertical jump, 100th percentile broad jump. So, wow.
Yeah, all the draft gurus, NFL scouts out there were just salivating over this guy's potential then, and you see absolute glimpses of this potential on film then. So he has great arm strength, great zip then.
Mm-hmm.
He is probably the best rusher in this class and an uber weapon in that regard then.
Yep.
So he's definitely going to score you fantasy points with his rushing ability alone, and that could easily get him in the top 12 of fantasy then, in top 6 then, if he ever taps into that throwing potential. As far as his throwing mechanics, he has a 3/4 delivery. It's sort of a longer motion. Needs improvement on his footwork then. He's in the pocket. He's actually very difficult to sack then, so he's very elusive. He's also quick to run then. His arm accuracy definitely needs improvement then. So this past year he had a 53.8% completion percentage then, threw for 2,549 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions then, but ran for 654 yards then. And his vision, so his vision, he has limited progression then. His decision-making wise, he plays a lot of hero ball then. There are times when he just needs to throw it away, but he does know when to run then. So that's definitely a positive then. And his ball placement there's times when it's just absolutely wonderful, and there's other times when it's extremely limited then. And he'll lawn dart a ball at times then, and then other times he'll throw like this 60-yard dart right into the guy's lap then. So he's the ultimate sort of yin yang. So he mixes this good with this bad, but the potential is definitely there. So he has a low floor as far as the QB side. This floor is very high as far as the rushing side, but his ceiling is easily the greatest in this class then. And he could easily be a QB1 Cam Newton type guy for year in, year out then, but definitely needs to tap into that QB side of things then. And he's going to need the right landing spot, and he's going to need a good amount of development then. So he's not a guy that's probably going to start year one. He's not a guy that's going to need to sit and then learn and then learn the pro style offense and then ultimately tap in that potential then. But he's the guy I've been flip-flopping back and forth between him and Will Levis as far as that 3 and 4 then on my list then. But I think he's uber potential, sort of like Will Levis then. And but I think Will Levis has better QB base then. And then Anthony Richardson has that more of that rushing base then. I'm intrigued by this prospect, and I probably gonna try. I don't know if I'm ever gonna come out with him in Superflex drafts, but definitely I'll be trying to draft him in the single QB leagues then in the second round.
So, what score did you give him?
I gave him, actually it was lower than a few of these other guys then. Stetson, Bennett, Jalen Hall. Then I gave him a 72.
Yep.
And it was brought down by a lot by his passing stuff then.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually have him ranked higher just for my overall like.
Sure.
For these guys then too.
Yeah, and so like you get this film score, and then we have a non-film score we sort of bring in there that takes into account their production, their draft capital, all that kind of stuff, their measurables, which his combine performance, which is going to vault him up the boards. But you have to grade what's on film, and don't get me wrong, his ceiling is super high. Like he's a top 3, top 4 quarterback in the class, and he's got a super high ceiling. But when you grade what's on film, you're not going to come out with a good score. You can't come out with a good score. He got a 10 for rushing ability. This dude broke 39 tackles on 97 carries. Like he is insanely fast. He's elusive enough, and you can't bring him down. Like he's just all. So as a rusher, he's going to get it done. He's Cam Newton for sure. And his arm strength, he threw 65 plus yards on film, easy, no problem. So definite
the
10 there.
Too,
yeah. So he's phenomenal there. Other things that are okay. So he doesn't take a lot of sacks. He breaks a lot of tackles in the backfield, which is good. But he just doesn't use the pocket to throw. He just uses the pocket to run around back there. Lamar Jackson up until recently made a living doing that. So maybe there is a place for him in the NFL, but the landing spot is going to be literally crucial. It really cuts down how what the landing spot can be. So there's not a lot of teams that are going to be gung ho about going out and getting him. So definitely he's going to be landing spot dependent. But his throwing mechanics are okay. His footwork's not that good, but he has a pretty compact release, and it obviously generates plenty enough arm strength. But like you said, the thing that really, really hurts him is you have to give him below average arm accuracy. He's got the stats to back it up. You have to give him below average ball placement because he not only throws balls that are not on target and not caught, they're legit uncatchable. Like they're not even close. So like those are plays that like you just can't do that in the NFL. Not to mention like he has minimal read progression and he often just misses guys. He does not manipulate coverage. So he's just basically an athlete playing quarterback that has a cannon. So he should have stayed in school, man. He could have really used another year and progressed a lot. But if you go out and set the combine on fire like this, somebody's going to jump up and take you in the first round. Why stay in school? Take a chance of getting hurt. So I don't know, man. I think you're going to see with this combine performance, you're probably going to see somebody take him in the top half of the first round. Somebody's going to trade up. Whether it be like a Seattle or heck, maybe even the Ravens. Somebody like that already has a system in place for sort of this Russian QB. Man, oh man. It's just the landing spots are really going to be key. And he's either going to be taken high, people are going to trade up to get him, or he's going to just fall down draft boards fast because, there's just not that many landing spots for this type of quarterback. Fun, exciting, but, this is a project. He's a bigger project than even, Malik Willis was, in my opinion.
Yeah, Malik Willis definitely offered more in the passing game then. Definitely, Malik Willis was a good rusher then too, but Anthony Richardson definitely is superior in that regard. But Anthony Richardson is going to, if there was bets I could place about if you're going to get your GM fired,
Yep.
Anthony Richardson should have the highest odds for that because is he a bad player? No, but he's going to be drafted high, and he has a lot of risk then.
Yep.
So, like I said, I mentioned earlier that I probably won't be getting him a lot in Superflex leagues.
I'm not touching him in the first round of Superflex. There is no way I'm touching him, and he's not going to get out of that. So he won't be on any of my teams.
If he goes where they project him in the top 10 pick or top 5 pick, you got to take him in the first round.
Well, what's the perfect landing spot? Baltimore.
Well, Baltimore, they're not going to unless Lamar Jackson gets signed off their team. They have a non-exclusive franchise tag on him.
Yeah, they're going to trade him. That's basically what they're doing.
Yeah.
Let's say he's out. Do you think that's his best landing spot?
He needs to sit. He needs to sit a year.
I agree.
So if Baltimore somehow can get the capital to trade up to get him, and then have him sit behind Lamar for a year, that's fine. But if Lamar's gone and they're going Anthony Richardson to start, and they already got rid of Greg Roman would have been the perfect offensive coordinator for him. I'm not sure where Greg Roman's at right now, but he has a sort of that run first QB offense then. But yeah, like I said, a lot of risk, a lot of reward then. But I think he will be drafted high. He will be drafted high in the Superflex leagues because people are going to love this potential then. But they're probably going to be picking him before over other QBs that I would pick ahead of him then. So that's why I said I'm not going to get him a lot in that Superflex leagues. But like I said, I'm okay with getting him in the single QB leagues then in that second round or early third round then too, just from a potential standpoint then. I'm okay with that. But yeah, you can't pass on him in the Superflex leagues in the first round. I remember last year people were passing on Kenny Pickett in the first round then. But any first round QB in Superflex is gold then. So you have to draft those guys early.
And that used to be really true. But there's been this trend of late that, these quarterbacks don't have all the time in the world to develop. And in the world of fantasy, you're expecting them to come in year one and produce and be a starter, or at least by year two. And, you're seeing all these talented quarterbacks, these talented arms that come in, maybe get the reins early and don't do well, and then they're done. They just get passed over. Look at Zach Wilson. All the talent in the world just gets passed over.
Yeah, I think the mental aspect and the personality aspect kicked in on that one too. But
yeah, but people aren't as patient now, both from fantasy standpoint and from NFL team standpoint. So.
Yeah, coaches get fired faster then.
Yep.
QBs have a shorter leash then. GMs have a shorter leash. So you got to see results soon. But if there's a team with a new GM, new coach, he should have a year to sit and develop then. I think that's the best for him. But like I said, sky high potential, and that's what people are going to be drafting him for then. It's like I said, risk versus reward then. That's what it all comes down to. But I'm intrigued. I like what I see in spurts, but definitely not a consistent player at this point in time then. So let's move on to our next quarterback. So C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State University then. So 6'3", 214 pounds, 10-inch hands then. Did not participate in the drills at the combine, which I thought he would actually done well on then too. But uber productive these last 2 years at Ohio State then. His 2021 was probably his best year, but 2022 wasn't shabby either then. 66.3% completion percentage, passed for 3,688 yards, 41 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, and had 108 yards on the ground then too. So Scotty, tell us what you think about C.J. Stroud.
So before I start, I want you to tell me your score number.
So he got my highest score at 80. He's my number one quarterback in this class.
Okay, 74. He was number 3. I thought I was going to really like him, but I came away not as impressed as I expected to be. Not that he's a bad prospect, but I thought that we'll talk about the holes that I see. So the positives. This dude has great arm accuracy, great ball placement, throws with really good anticipation, and is a very, very, very sound decision maker. He's going to be an absolute really good NFL quarterback. I have no doubt about that. But he doesn't offer you some of the other intangibles that I want to see. So his throwing mechanics, they're okay. I feel like he uses his upper half looks good, but his lower half, he doesn't use it at times, and sometimes he gets a little out of sync. His pocket presence is really good, definitely above average. I don't feel like he manipulates it as much as he needs to. But in this offense, with Ohio State, how they sort of have that, you're reading half the field a lot of the time, and a couple of reads, you don't really have to be, manipulating the pocket too much. Arm strength, kind of mentioned, it's just a little bit above average. I expected him to have a much stronger arm, and so many balls were just so close to getting picked off. The longest throw I saw on film, and he's airing them out there because he's got literally top-tier wide receivers, like the best wide receivers in the game the last couple years. And his longest throw is about 50 yards. So that's tough. I expect him to throw it a little bit farther. We mentioned the vision. With this offense, he's sort of a half-field reader. He will stare at guys at times. And, if you got Marvin Harrison Jr. out there running routes and dominating, you're going to lock in on him too. But it causes him with that, that arm that's not that strong at times to put the ball sort of in harm's way. Didn't result in a lot of picks, but it resulted in some incompletions. And the rushing ability. He showed in the Georgia game, the playoff game, that he has some rushing ability, and he's actually a pretty good athlete, I think. He just didn't run. And, he didn't have to, I guess. But I wanted to see more of that. I wanted to see him use that rushing ability. And so I left wanting more from him. So he came in at number 3, and, he's going to be a first-round pick. He's probably going to be a top 5 pick. A lot of rumors are that Carolina loves him, and he's going to be the top pick.
He'll be a top 2 pick.
I don't personally like him there, but to each their own. I think he's a guy that I don't see a situation where I'll probably be drafting in Superflex. I just wasn't enamored enough to spend that high of a first-round pick on him. So even if he does go number 1 or number 2, he's not somebody that I'm in love with. So
we're drafting him, Scotty.
No, we're not. We're passing on him, man.
We're taking him at
way.
Our combo league then. We're going to discuss this more. Let me convince you.
Okay.
So he has the best touch, the best accuracy of probably all the QBs in this class then. And he put on a show at the combine. Like, it was.
I can agree with
awesome,
that.
man.
He's got the beautiful touch, beautiful ball placement. I'll agree with that.
And he can make all the throws then. So, and he unleashed his arm at the combine. Like, he was keeping up with the Will Levises, the Anthony Richardsons of the world. He didn't have like the exact arm strength with them, but he was somewhat comparable then. So he was making the very good sort of deep throws then. So I was impressed by that. Like I said, he doesn't unleash it during the game, but he definitely has that. I would say it's not elite arm strength, but it's good to great arm strength then.
Yeah, let's see. Maybe he cleaned up some of that mechanic stuff and is using his lower body better, and he's gotten some more distance out of it. If he's throwing more than 50 yards at the combine, I'll bump his arm strength score up because that was the part that concerned me.
Yeah, and so I gave him a little bump from I saw him in the combine then too, and I think he has great decision making. He has okay anticipation. I think he knows his offense well, so he knows what to do with it. He has that. The thing I always knock the Ohio State quarterbacks is that they are one side of the field scanners then, and they're guys. They have the elite wide receivers. They're always open. So he played with Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith Najigba then. So all these guys are
the top receivers in the game for the last two classes, pretty much.
Top receivers in the country then. And they actually had to ship out Jamison Williams at Ohio State because there's too many good guys.
Too loaded.
Yeah. And so he has these great weapons. And in the Penn State game we watched this year, like Marvin Harrison got open every single play, and all he had to do was just throw to Marvin Harrison. And that's what beat Penn State this year. But he has that. So is it truly just his wide receivers, or does he have a talent that he can translate to the NFL then? And I worry about, will he able to get hit those tight windows then, see those guys that are just barely open or throw them open then. And I think he could do that. I saw the placement at the combine. I saw the placement in the games then. So I think he can do that then. Will he be able to process that? And I think he's a better processor and does scan the field a little bit more than past Ohio State quarterbacks. I hated Haskins then. God rest his soul. And Fields I thought was okay, but he definitely couldn't read a field. No pun intended. Read a field very well then. And the other thing is, so I think he's better than both those guys as far as the vision then. And the same thing with Fields then. You didn't see Fields run much in college then.
Yeah, but Fields could flat run though.
Oh, he flat run. And Stroud, when you watch the Georgia game, he can run too.
Yeah, he broke the pocket a lot more. If he single-handedly, I had to go back and bump a lot of his stuff up from just that one game. That was one of the most impactful games that I think I've ever watched by a prospect.
He played a great game, and he used his legs then. And I think he has that ability then. It's one of those things that I don't think the Ohio State coaching staff wants their QBs to run because they want to keep them healthy and not risk injury then and risk lower limb injuries then. So I think they coach him not to run then, but that was Justin Fields' best weapon in the pros so far. He's still limited as far as reading the field, but I think C.J. Stroud, that's going to be more of a weapon for him in the pros then than it was in college then. So I think that right there is going to be another benefit to him. And I think he's the most. Him and C.J. Stroud are probably him and Bryce Young are the most pro-ready QBs. But I give C.J. Stroud the bump because of his size then, this accuracy. I saw just a better year for him this year than I saw from Bryce Young then. I mean, on the film I watched then. We'll discuss Bryce Young here at the last QB of the episode then. But like I said, I have C.J. Stroud as my number one then, and I think I'm comfortable with that right now. We'll see where they land then, but I don't think it's going to be changing based on landing spot.
What was the number again?
I give him an 80. But Marvin Harrison Jr.
He's the number one receiver next year, hands down.
Be a stud.
Hands down.
He could be the 101 in Dynasty then.
Right now, I don't see a situation where he's not.
It's going to depend if there's like a running back that sort of pops then. But as far as wide receivers, there's no one that's going to challenge him for the top wide receiver.
Nope.
I'm already marking him down as my top wide receiver for next year. It's not even a challenge yet out there. So yeah, he's a stud. He's awesome. So next on the list we have Dorian Thompson-Robinson, or DTR then, out of UCLA then. So he came in at 6'2", 203 pounds, 9 7/8 hands then. He ran a 4.5640, had a 32.5-inch vertical, a 10-foot 1-inch broad jump, and a 7.28 three-cone drill.
So 95th percentile 40, 70th percentile vertical, 90th percentile broad jump, 20th percentile three-cone. Not sure what happened there, but
yeah, I thought that'd be a lot better for him, but still pretty good combine stats there. And then as far as his stats then, so he was actually a 4-year starter at UCLA then. Actually, oh, actually probably no, 5 years as far as starting then, but best year this past year. So he had a almost 70% completion percentage then, threw for 3,169 yards, 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, ran for another 645 yards and 12 touchdowns then. So let's see. I'll start on DTR then. So first off, I want to say I didn't know much about him going in. I never watched a lot of UCLA games then, but I came away pretty intrigued by DTR watching this film then. So I think he's definitely pluses right from the start then. He's very good in his rushing ability. He's elusive. He hurdles guys. I probably saw that at least 3 times then. He has that leadership poise, that 5-year starter then. He's an absolute baller then. He has decent zip on the ball then. He does not make much as far as to take many deep shots then. It's more these short intermediate routes then, but he has enough zip to make all those short intermediate throws then. His accuracy is pretty decent then. It's a lot better than I thought it would be then. He actually goes through progressions then too. He's not focusing just on one guy most of the time then. He does make some dangerous throws then. Misses coverage at times then, and his anticipation could be a little bit better then, but his ball placement's not too bad then. And what I see is a guy that almost he's like a poor man's Anthony Richardson, but a better overall throwing mechanics then, and I would say throwing mechanics, but a better film as far as the throwing side then. And he's a guy that could, if he was like Lamar Jackson's backup then, and Lamar Jackson gets hurt, I could easily see him fitting that offense very well and offering sort of poor man's Lamar numbers. And I think actually Baltimore should draft DTR and have him as the backup because Caleb Huntley definitely took a step back here in 2023. Tyler Huntley then. Caleb Huntley is the running back out of Atlanta, I believe. But he's a very intriguing prospect. And I think he's a guy that could offer fantasy value in the right situation and sort of the right cards come for him then, and he plays his cards right then. But I was intrigued by him. I like what I saw then. And he came out very positive.
I agree pretty much with everything you said. So he is a guy that definitely helped himself by not trying to come out last year because he went back to school. Chip Kelly really worked with him a lot and improved him in a lot of areas that he struggled. He's got, you mentioned the rushing ability. Like, I gave him a 9 because he's right up there. He's more elusive than Richardson, I think, but just sort of a smaller body. He's not going to be superior to him in that regard. But he's definitely got that big playmaking ability. Then you get to the arm stuff. So his throwing mechanics, he holds the ball low, so that hurts him. Maybe that can be cleaned up and will help some. But he has, some suspect footwork at times, and he gets a little sloppy. So his mechanics are just very average. He has special escapability out of the pocket, and in previous years when he looked to just run, now he's looking to sort of create throwing lanes and get the ball down the field. So he really progressed, especially this year. He doesn't take a lot of sacks, only 16 sacks in 2022. And, his arm strength is only a little above average. You don't see him throw deep balls. And the reason is he just doesn't have that kind of arm. He's maybe 50 to 55, kind of in that same range as a lot of these quarterbacks. But he operated really well in that short intermediate game, and that's why his completion percentage went way up to 69.6% from 62%. And Chip Kelly, at one point I was like, man, this dude really is scanning the field well. I think his vision is excellent. But then I started catching on. He actually looks at his first read. If it's not there, he automatically goes to a check down. He always has a check down available, either a back out of the backfield or somebody that's sort of hanging back. So I think that's by design to help him out some. And it really helped. I mean, UCLA was a really good football team this year. He honestly, you know who he reminds me of? Justin Fields. I think he reminds me a lot of Justin Fields. And I think Justin Fields is a better prospect. But in this class, if Dorian Thompson-Robinson goes to somewhere like Seattle and gets to sit behind Geno Smith for a couple years, I would really be intrigued taking him in like a second round of Superflex if we could get him that, in the second round. It's all going to be draft capital, obviously, but I think I like him better than I like Anthony Richardson. Even though Anthony Richardson's ceiling is super high, I could see myself drafting DTR much better than I could see myself drafting Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, he's a poor man's Anthony Richardson.
Absolutely.
Yep, he's going to be a lot cheaper. But the overall comp is fairly similar to what they can do, but just not the same ceiling as Richardson then.
Yep.
Yeah, but I was very surprised by what I saw then, and I came away liking him.
I do think he's going to throw more picks. I think that he would have thrown more picks if he wouldn't have had that sort of scheduled check down. Because there's a lot of times he throws some risky balls, and they were picks, but there's a lot of times that he got away with a lot too. So I'm glad he went back to school because he really improved his draft stock. I think he's going to be an intriguing 4th, 5th round draft pick in the NFL draft, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I love that West Coast landing spot there in Seattle, so let's see what happens.
Yes, Seattle, Baltimore, those would be nice spots then. Geno Smith's on his contract extension then, so
it's perfect.
Yeah, so
give him a couple years to sit. Yep.
So
68. That's where I had him at.
Yeah, I'm at 71 then. So, yep. So next on the list, Clayton Tune out of Houston. So 6 foot, 2.5 inches, 220 pounds, 9 3/4 inch hands. Then he ran a 4.64 40, had a 37.5 inch vertical, a 6.89 3-cone drill, and a 10 foot 2 inch broad jump.
So 84th percentile 40, 87th percentile 3-cone, 98th percentile vertical, 92nd percentile broad jump.
Yeah, so this is a guy that actually had very good stats. So he was probably a four-year starter and played a little bit in his even in the 5th year then. But this past year was his best year. So he had a 67.3% completion percentage, threw for 4,074 yards, then 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and then ran for another 544 yards and 5 touchdowns then. So, Scotty, I think you told me that you're in love with Clayton Tune then. So I'll let you start off with. I want to hear what you say.
This dude is the biggest sleeper in this class. I'm going to tell you right now. His film is very, very good. I'm very intrigued to see, sort of what the reports are and if he gets draft capital. Because I'll be super excited to take him sort of in the, 3rd, 4th rounds of rookie drafts for Superflex. Maybe even taking a deep flyer on him in the super late rounds in single QB leagues. If everything, fits just perfect. But mechanically, he has a really good upper half. His footwork can be a little clunky at times, but he operates really well in the pocket. Like, I feel like he just glided around through the pocket, opening up throwing lanes, and he can stand in there, but the biggest plus is his escapability. Like, he has that, I'm so surprised that he actually showed such great athleticism at the combine, because it absolutely shows up on tape and makes sense. I know they're playing maybe not the top tier competition, so you got to kind of think about that too. But he absolutely is super elusive, and he has that plus speed and space, and it shows up. But so in the pocket, yeah, he takes a few sacks, but I think he operates really well. Arm accuracy is excellent. He throws a super accurate ball. I mean, I think that 67% completion percentage is very valid. I mean, it's not inflated by a bunch of checkdowns and whatever. And this dude, like, he literally had to pack this team. Because, I mean, what can we get this team a defense? Jeez, giving up 70 points to SMU. Like, every game he was in, it was like he was playing hero ball.
The Pony Express, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is Gardner Minshew. Like, this is the Gardner Minshew comp I was talking about in our first show. I absolutely love what this guy can bring. The knocks are he locks on to guys a lot, but he also really, really reads the field. Like, you see him going through progressions. You see plus ball placement, and you see routinely throwing people open with good anticipation. So you mix that with this rushing ability, because, I mean, he's really tough to bring down. He's a bigger body guy, too. Like, this was the first prospect that I've looked at and been consistently happy with everything about them. He's the best well-rounded prospect in the class. Not saying he's the best prospect, but as far as, like, holes in his game, he doesn't have a lot to me. So I really liked him. And if you want to watch one play about this dude, you go watch him. I can't remember what team they were playing, but he makes a dive into the end zone and gets flipped head over heels, just like complete, throwing, reckless abandon out the window. Just doesn't care. Like, he's all about winning, man. And so I really like him. He came in as my number 5 quarterback at 72. I can't wait to see where he goes in the draft.
Yeah, he came in that sort of that third tier of quarterbacks then, and all these guys have a very, very similar score then. So lots going to depend on the landing spot. And hearing you talk about him then too, I came away with a lot of the same opinions. I liked what I saw then.
Yeah, do you see holes in his game? Like, what holes do you see?
There's not many holes then. I think his biggest hole then is the vision then. The vision part, and he's good against man-to-man coverage, but a lot of his interceptions came against zone coverage. So he doesn't always see the zone coverage as well then too. So that's one of the biggest holes I see. And I know you're gonna mock me for this then, but I saw a similar prospect as quarterback last year. So Carson Strong out of Nevada. Mm-hmm. I see him a very similar prospect, but not without the knee injuries and a lot more mobility.
Has the mobility. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Carson Strong had that arm, like so.
Yeah, and he has like more that I saw like that 55 to 60 yard arm strength then, and he loves to push the ball down the field a lot. Like he is looking to push the ball down the field. And that was what I saw with Carson Strong throwing to Romeo Doubs then last year. But Carson Strong had that awful knee history, and mobility was pretty much non-existent. So that definitely hurt him. But Clayton too, he's a strong runner then.
So it's very interesting you mentioned about the arm strength. I initially wrote down that his arm strength was not good. And I realized what he was doing after I watched more tape. He actually manipulates how hard he throws the ball based on, like, if it's an intermediate route or whatever, and he thinks that he can get it there with adequate, just taking a little off of it, he does. But when he needs to throw it, he hit 60-yard throws routinely. On the button, 60 was the max. But he had a 60-yard throw right on the button, so I was like, wow, he actually can tune it up there.
He can push it down the field. I guess I actually agree with you. Like the zip, you want to see more. You're gonna need to see more in the NFL on those intermediate routes. Like, he doesn't throw with the greatest zip in those intermediate routes. That's something that he needs to improve on. I think you gotta put more on that in the NFL, because there's the guys are just too talented then. And like I said, he throws a lot downfield, and he's accurate then too. So you throw that much downfield and have that high of a completion percentage then is pretty impressive then. So I was solidly surprised by that then. And like I said, he has that rushing ability. And that's going to be that sort of the X factor, and to get in those extra points. And be a sort of a fantasy football asset for your team then too. So he's definitely a guy you're looking for. I don't anticipate him being a starter right from the go, but he could be a guy that sort of sneaks into a starter spot in year 2, year 3 of his NFL career then. And a guy you can stash in your practice squads then. And like I said, it's going to depend on where the draft capital is, what team he goes to. But definitely a good prospect, and I liked what I saw coming from the smaller school at Houston. So should we finish our last guy of the night then?
Yep.
So last but not least, the most touted prospect in this class, Bryce Young out of Alabama then. So his Heisman House commercials don't lie. He looked the same height as Kyler Murray, and he came in the same height then. So 5'10", 204 pounds, 9 3/4-inch hands then. Did not run or pass at the combine then, but uber productive in 2021, 66.9% completion percentage, threw for 4,872 yards, 47 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and won himself the Heisman. Numbers definitely stepped back in 2022 then when he lost Jamison Williams then. He lost Michi then. His completion percentage was 64.5% then. Threw for 3,328 yards, 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and actually ran more this past year. Ran for 185 yards on the ground then and 4 touchdowns then. Tell me what you think about Bryce Young here.
I'll say this right off the bat. He is not 204 pounds. You better believe they did everything they could to pack on weight for that combine.
Agreed.
Absolutely. He might be 190 pounds soaking wet. Like, absolutely. But
well, if you're going to start there, this is what brings the greatest concern for me.
Sure.
Like, Kyler Murray is thick. He's a thick 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Young is a thin 5'10", and I worry about his size, durability.
Sure.
When he gets hit by, I don't know, Joey Bosa or Myles Garrett, he's gonna break in two.
Well, this is what opens up the big thing here is he's got to go somewhere where they have some protection in place. They've really got to focus on protecting him. Or he's going to get hurt. He played at Alabama. I mean, he plays against the best players in college football. So he's the thing that, and this is the thing that is so great about him. He is special between the ears. This guy, he knows pre-snap, and he's running a pro-style offense at Alabama. Like, he's a plug-and-play, ready-to-go today NFL quarterback. And the Panthers will be crazy not to take him at the top pick because he is a very cerebral pre-snap. He makes all the right checks, all the right reads. He's manipulating the defense, even pre-snap. And he moves so well in the pocket to create throw-in lanes. Just these subtle movements to make everything just flow so perfect. He has special ball placement. He has really, really good accuracy. You mentioned that he dropped a little bit, down to 64.5%, but was almost 67% in 2021. And he throws with just incredible anticipation. Of all the quarterbacks we've scouted, he is up there in the top tier in regards to anticipation. He sees the field so super well. And, only having 5 picks last year, he's just like he's under control. He's not a risk taker, which I know you can look at that as a disadvantage because you want to see him throwing the ball, in there and taking chances, but he doesn't have to. He just operates that pro style offense to perfection. And the thing is, he could run. He has some rushing ability. He's going to get killed if he does, and that's why he didn't run in college. But he has speed. He's athletic. So, I mean, if you want to see perfect mechanics, they're about as sound as it can be. There's times his lower half doesn't get into it, and he drops some velocity. Other than other than his arm strength, he is an awesome prospect. Arm strength wise, he's probably 55 yards max. That's about what I saw on film, and he's not going to beat you with the deep ball. But in today's NFL, he is going to be an elite he's going to run an offense just at an elite level in that intermediate passing game, and I think that Carolina will be crazy to pass on him. To me, he's head and shoulders the top quarterback prospect in the class. He doesn't have the highest ceiling, but I think he's the top quarterback prospect. I think the guy who probably has the highest ceiling overall is Will Levis. But I really like Bryce Young a whole lot.
Yeah, so I gave him a good grade based on what I saw on film. Like you said everything already. He has very good throwing mechanics, footwork. He sees the field better than anybody in the class then. Goes through all his reads, all his progressions then. Very good anticipation, quick processing. He has decent mobility then. He's not one to look at the run all the time then, but he's definitely a guy that can run and get some extra yards, but it's going to be dangerous in the NFL. He has to get down the slide every single time then. And he's more elusive than I thought he'd be at first then. The one thing I saw that I really liked is he is super elusive in the pocket. So it reminded me of like Patrick Mahomes' elusiveness then. So Patrick Mahomes does this like these 360 runs and plays like merry-go-round out there with the defensive ends then, and that's what I'm seeing with Bryce Young. He has that sort of special ability then too. But the things that get him trouble is his his arm strength is okay. It's okay to good then. It's not great or elite by any stretch of the imagination. So he's not going to be a guy that pushes it downfield on a frequent basis. He's going to need an offense like the Tua Miami Dolphins offense then, where they have these quick short passes and allow the wide receivers to get a lot of yards after catch then. And then when there is a deep shot or a guy open deep, then you can hit him then. But if he doesn't have a good center or good guards, and they push that pocket back into his face, that's when he has a ton of trouble. You saw that on the film then. And that's when he had a lot of issues, and if he needs a good line.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not looking at very good situations at the top of this draft, so it's going to be tough, man.
Yeah, I guess Texas had Tunsil, but I'm not sure what their interior line's like. Carolina's not known for the greatest line either then. But it's his short size, you have to have dominant center and dominant guards then. And if not, it's going to be tough. And then, like I said, durability is going to be a major issue. If he has a bad line, he's getting hit often. His size, it's going to be an issue then. And you worry about just any injuries to the throwing shoulder then, to his arm, its legs. I do worry about him a lot in that regard then. And that's ultimately why I have C.J. Stroud as the higher rated prospect in this class then. Like I said, I think the processing ability of Bryce Young is superior than C.J. Stroud, but C.J. Stroud has that better arm. He has a better size. He has the better other intangibles then too. And that's where it ultimately comes down to for these 1 to 2 in this class then. So that's why I have C.J. Stroud as my 1, Bryce Young as my 2, and then ultimately, after talking about all this, probably have Will Levis at 3, and then Anthony Richardson at 4 then.
Yeah, what grade did you give Bryce Young?
It's the same score as C.J. Stroud, an 80.
Okay. Yeah, 85 for me. So pretty sizable. 80. Will Levis was a 77. He was number 2.
Yeah, so you got Bryce Young pretty good ahead of there. But would you still? So we have picks 102 and 103 in Superflex.
Yeah, we're not taking a quarterback.
We got to take a quarterback.
Yeah,
we had to take one quarterback.
We'll see what happens. I'm not excited.
It looks like Bijan is going to go 101 in every league then.
Yeah.
Let's see what the landing spot shows. But so are you telling me you would not want to draft one of these quarterbacks at 102, 103?
If
we have to.
So if Will Levis goes to Indianapolis and that's a good system that he can really do well in, I'm fine taking him number 3, number 2, whichever. But I'm telling you right now, Bryce Young is not going to be in a good position right off the bat if he goes number 1 to Carolina. And I'm not super. He's a great NFL quarterback, but I don't know that he has the potential to be a really good NFL quarterback, but I don't know if he will offer that fantasy upside to be more than a good quarterback. Will Levis, I think, has the highest sort of upside ceiling as far as being well-rounded. So for me, I think everything's going to fall into place that he's going to end up being my top quarterback. But it's tough, man. Like, I've never had a class where I look at it and go, Bryce Young's my number 1 on film, Will Levis my number 2, Stroud my number 3, and then have all these other people mixed in that I really like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Clayton Tune, Hooker, Anthony Richardson, like all these guys that I like. And then to say, even though their scores are so far apart, I would move them around with each other. But the fact of the matter is, there's no Joe Burrow in this class. There's no elite.
No Joe Burrow, no Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, there's no elite quarterback prospect that doesn't have holes. So now more than ever, it's landing spot dependent, and you have to sort of match early production, wanting to have that with getting ultimately a better landing spot. So this is a tough class, man. Even coming out of this film review, all this did was just show me guys that I like, and then the landing spot's going to manipulate where they go. Those are the guys that I'm looking for. Like, I want to take Will Levis in the first round. I want to find a way to get him, somewhere in that a nice spot in the first round. I'm not interested in Stroud at where he's going to have to be drafted. Probably not interested in Bryce Young where he's going to be drafted. And Hooker is going to be a really good later second round pick in Superflex. And I think Clayton Tune, you might luck up and get him 3rd or 4th round if he's got a good landing spot. And I like him. Same thing with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But, I'm not paying up for Anthony Richardson either. So this is a very interesting class. And I don't know what's going to happen here. We'll see how the rankings play out, but they will look totally different once we're done than what my film score looks. I can tell you that.
Yeah. All I know is I would be very comfortable drafting C.J. Stroud at 102.
Nope, not me.
Over Bryce Young.
Not me. It'd be tough. I'm gonna watch the pro day. I'm gonna see if he's improved some of the mechanics. Maybe he's got some more arm strength. I might warm up a little bit to him, but man, it's tough for me to take him over Levis. Not with Levis has better arm and equally is just maybe even more so athletic. So it's hard for me to put Stroud over him. Like, what are you worried about? All the accuracy issues that he had? I mean, I understand that, but like the dude's literally getting planted on his back like by 2 seconds every snap. So can you blame him? The talent's obviously there. Watch him throw the football around. So it's not like he's inaccurate.
Yeah, but it's a tough decision. Like, I wish there was like a guy that just stood out then.
Yeah.
And if there was a guy that stood out, then we could probably get Bijan Robinson and Superflex at 102, but that's not going to happen.
Nope.
But we're going to have further discussions based on landing spot then too, and see where we're at then. But definitely interesting debates going forward then. But that's what we have for you here today. So check out the videos at the Dynasty interview on YouTube then. Subscribe to the channel, like the channel, put your comments in. Hit us up on Twitter if any questions, any comments then too. Be happy to talk football there as well then. see these guys and see what you think and offer your thoughts as well. We're interested to hear them. Yeah, and then definitely like and subscribe to the podcast then on Apple iTunes then. That will sort of grow the podcast, get more listeners then, and allow us to put more content up then too. So definitely appreciate it. So that's all we got for you today. So this is Joseph Adrian signing off.
And this is Scott Martin, and you just listened to the Dynasty Interview Fantasy Football Podcast.